Om. Om. Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Surayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Ketavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kim Vaharerishwaraha Sadyo Hridya Varudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubistatkshanat. Hariom and greetings from Niagara Falls. How many of you are from Kerala? By show of hands, culturally. So when I chant, you hear the word sadhya, correct? And so you're thinking about lunch and dinner. That's not the sadhya that I'm referring to when I chant this mantra. In Kerala and many other cultures in Bharat, in India, this weekend, yesterday specifically, people celebrated a new year. In Kerala, the seekers there celebrated Vishu. Vishu is another word for Vishnu. And Vishnu comes from the root Vish. Vish means to enter. Like the word Vishvam is that place that Vishnu has entered. I shared this with all of us because as we had a celebration with our Kerala community yesterday, and they were celebrating a new year, I pointed out to them that it's only new if you feel new. A new year is decided if you feel new, if you feel happier, if you feel more nourished. Bhagavan Krishna will tell Rishi Uddhava soon, after I am gone, what will nourish you is dharma. When we die, what is going to carry us, our momentum will be dharma. But while we're alive, what nourishes us, what carries us, the word Bhagavan Krishna uses is sadhu. It is those who study and share infinite nature, infinite joy that nourish us. I'm specifically pointing this out to all of us because today we complete our 151st class on Vedanta and Bhagavata. And Bhagavan Krishna is only going to speak to Rishi Uddhava for a couple of more chapters. And then Bhagavan will dissolve his name, his form. So I'm challenging all of you, I'm reminding all of you, are you feeling nourished by sadhus like Rishi Shuka, Rishi Vyasa, Swami Tapasyananda, Puja Swami Tejomayananda? I hope, more deeply, I pray you do feel how nourished you are, that you are coming closer to infinite joy. In chapter 26 of the 11th section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavan Krishna is pointing out to Rishi Uddhava that he is to depend on divinity or else. If you depend on any entity other than divinity, you will be disappointed. By depending on articles, we get addicted. By depending on beings, we get attached. By depending on circumstances, we become apathetic. Addiction, attachment, apathy only makes us feel disappointed. And he's given examples in this section, examples like Pingala. Pingala is attached to beings. And what's interesting about this, Bhagavan shares that this is a woman who is attached to a man. And now more recently, Pururavas is one who's attached to or dependent on beings, and that's a man to a woman. I want you to be clear about that there's no sense of genderism in Sanatana Dharma. Men have vices, women have vices, any sort of combination of man, woman, there are vices in us. That's an expression of dependence. How do we come out of these vices? Change your dependence. What Raja Pururavas shares with himself is known as Aila Gita. Why Aila? Because he is the son, he is the child of Ila. So Ila's son is Aila. And in this Gita, he shares, I have no right to blame anyone for my attachment. That is a powerful thought. So many people here are in families, as am I. And then we come to feel that in a family, it's natural to be attached. And so we almost make our attachment an excuse. We're almost blaming our attachment on family or context. But you see, anyone who's reflective will not use that as an excuse, will not blame. Raja Pururavas is very reflective that I caused the attachment, I have to uncause the attachment, and he does. Through his reflection, in a succinct way, he comes to understand and appreciate that all relationships are changing. If you can count how many people have come in and out of your life, it would be countless. Think about your friends in high school. Think here in the Niagara region, there was a period where so many people passed away in our community, correct? And that will go on forever. No one is ever going to change that. To depend on divinity. We continue to chapter 27. There are 31 chapters in this 11th section, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. The final 5 chapters with our Bhagavan. This chapter is very much about, the word Bhagavan uses is Kriya Yoga. Now, when we come across Kriya Yoga, we think of Autobiography of a Yogi. How many of you have read this book before? Or we think of Art of Living, and that there's many techniques relating to Kriya Yoga. What this book and this organization share, those are different forms of pranayama. The Kriya Yoga that Bhagavan Krishna is referring to is puja. Another word for this is yajna, or a micro ritual. This whole chapter is about this. Please listen carefully. here in Niagara, I was just sharing about sustainability. We tend to externalize sustainability in an environmental way, which we should. But there's also a sustainability of culture and religion between generations. And I think we all need to invest more in this sustainability. Chapter 27, verse 15, Bhagavan Krishna's teaching, Rishi Uddhava is teaching us, Dravyai prasiddher madhyagaha pratima dishva mayinaha bhaktasya cha yata labdaihi hridi bhavena chaivahi. Bhagavan Krishna shares, Dravyaihi, which means materials, prasiddhaihi, the ones that you want, the best materials, madhyagaha, you should use these to worship me. Where? Pratimadishu, in an icon. Put simply, those who have a desire of Bhagavan have to offer the best materials to Bhagavan. But now he compares this to amayinaha, those who don't have a desire from Bhagavan. It's not, I have a desire from Bhagavan, but rather I have a desire for Bhagavan. Those are very different. Bhaktasya yata labdaihi, such a bhakta, yatha labdaihi, with any materials, that which is easy, that which is simple, hridi bhavena, they can worship with that. That's the translation. I'll share this in one more way. If you have a desire from Bhagavan, then your puja has to be strict and complex. But if you have a desire for Bhagavan, it doesn't have to be strict because it's based on your bhakti. It doesn't have to be complex. It's based on your attitude. So far, so good. Okay, let me elaborate. Why the word kriya is used here for puja. On a typical Friday night, what do you do? Please share in the chat. Please tell me, what do you do typically on a Friday night? We go to a restaurant, we invite friends over, we watch things, we eat things. So we're using our senses, but our senses are going outward. We're becoming more extrovert or dependent. When one practices puja, you're still using your senses. You're still seeing, you're still eating, but it's not external, it's internal. It's not dependent, it's independent. So this is why this is called Kriya Yoga. It provides a field for the senses. That's the practicality of puja. Bhagavan shares that puja can be practiced by all varnas. What is the English word for varna? Color, good. It can be practiced by anyone. Varna means the color of your inner world. So if you're an angry person, you can practice puja. If you're a quiet person, you can practice puja. So all varnas and all ashramas. Give me an English word for ashram. Anyone? That's more difficult to define. Let's call it position. Some people are students in position, some people are retired in position. So this can be practiced by all ashramas. And ashrama is really your outer world. Varna is your inner world, ashrama is your outer world. So Bhagavan says you can practice irrespective of your inner and outer world. He further on shares that puja can be facilitated in a Vedic way or a tantric way or any sort of combination. And his point is you can practice puja in whatever way you like. What if I change this to, you can practice puja in Sanskrit, or you can practice puja in English, or any combination you like. Makes sense. Now, where should one practice this puja? This is so interesting. I'm going to read this to you. Dvija means the one who is twice born. They have found their purpose in life. Archayam, they can offer their worship or their puja to. Standile means that which is drawn on the ground. Then Agnau means in fire. Surye, in the sun. Apsu, in water. And then Hridi. What does Hridi mean? In your heart. So where can one practice puja? You can draw on the ground. You can do this in fire. You can do this in the sun. You can do this in water. And you can do this in your heart. What is the real implication of this? Where can you practice puja? Anywhere you can practice puja. I think some of us were not taught this when we were younger. That we were taught you can only practice puja. Only some of you can, not all of you, correct? If you're like this, you can't do it. And if you're not in this place, you can't do it. And that's why I'm giving you the verses that Bhagavan Krishna is speaking out. Bhagavan also shares, before you engage in puja, and he says it very specifically, after cleaning the teeth. You have to brush your teeth before puja. Some effort should be put in. And Bhagavan shares that when you're bathing, that you should chant mantras. That's a lovely thought. What do you do when you bathe? You're listening to the news, daydreaming about something. And that's why we waste water. But as you're, using soap or using shampoo to chant mantras, chant Om Namah Shivaya, chant Om Namo Narayana. Will you do it? You will feel so much more. Soaps make you pure. This will make you feel much purer then. Okay, so Bhagavan shares where one can offer this puja, that some preparation is required. But see how beautiful this is? Everyone can brush their teeth. And if you don't have teeth, even better. Everyone can bathe because really, in a little while, I'll be facilitating the vivaha of a couple of seekers who are in our class right now. And at the beginning, I will be doing my own nyasa. I'll be taking my hands and chanting Om, 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 Om. It's like I'm bathing before the actual vivaha. And how am I doing it? With mantras. That should be your raw. No bathing this week. Only nyasa. Now Bhagavan shares, he's talked about where this puja should happen. And now he shares how icons can express. The where is locked in. Now, what should this puja be offered to? What should it look like? So I'm reading this out to you. So interesting. Okay. You tell me in English. Shaili. Does anyone know what that means in English? Icons that are made out of stone. Shaili means an icon made out of stone. That's Shaili, correct? That's marble. Then Darumai. Hindi speakers, don't think Daru. Darumai. We're so good at that. Darumai means made of wood. Made out of wood. Then Lauhi. Anyone? Metal. The murtis at the bottom, you see they're made out of metal. Panchaloha, 5 precious metals. Then Lepya. Lepya means sand, clay, etc. So I'm going to pause here. Please turn your phone off. That's ringing, I've said it so many times now. Yes, please. And if you're sitting beside that person, make sure it happens. Lepya means sand. Before Bhagavan Rama went to Lanka, what did he do? Lepya, correct? He made a Shivalinga out of sand. Then Lekhya. Lekhya means writing or painting. It would be like again, a painting or an image like we have all around here. That's Lekhya. Shaili, Darumai, Lauhi, Lepya, Lekhya, that's 5. Number 6 is Saikati, and that means, I want to make sure I'm not sharing this incorrectly. Saikati actually means sand, and so Lepya means clay. So Lepya is clay, Saikati is sand. Different densities of those materials. That's number 6. Number 7 is Manomai. Anyone want to share what that is in English? The way you imagine in your own mind. So the icon can express any way you want. And then finally, Bhagavan says, Mani Mai. What does money mean? Money. It means made out of jewels. So 6 was Saikati, 7 is Manomai, 8 is Manimai. Pratimashva Ashvidha Smrita. These are the 8 ways that icons can express. Now I'll share more about this later, but what's special about this is how universal these icons can be. How many of you have access to clay? By show of hands. Your house is on clay. How many of you have access to some sort of wood? All of us have access to wood. How many of you have access to your own minds? That's harder. Mani Mai, I can see your Mani Mai right now. How inclusive Bhagavan is. Bhagavan further on shares that these icons can be achala or chala. What does achala mean? Not moving. Our achala murtis, they've never left there for more than 15 years. They've never left there for more than 13 years. And then chala means moving. Like when we have local vivahas, I bring our utsava murtis there in that vivaha. That's Bhagavan's business card. Bhagavan's ambassador is there. Okay? Now, my final thought before I get into our next verse. Bhagavan ends this section saying, Shraddhaya preshtam vari. What does Shraddhaya mean? With faith. Preshtam means I feel is the best. Vari means water. That if you offer even water with faith, I feel that is the best. So really, what is to be offered to Bhagavan? Not the water, but the faith. Yes. Again, I feel like when I was growing up, I was never taught this. We can all practice Kriya Yoga or Puja. We see the sun. We have access to our own minds. You can nurture faith. One more verse. I'm now in verse 48. Bhagavan Krishna continues with Rishi Uddhava. Archadishu yada yatra Shraddha mam tatra charchayet Sarva bhuteshvamani cha Sarvatmaham avastitaha. Archadishu, in this icon, yada yatra, whenever, whichever, Shraddha mam tatra charchayet, wherever your faith develops, then that becomes your icon. Where should this faith develop? Sarva bhuteshu atmani. One should nurture their faith, feeling the divinity in every being, feeling the divinity in themselves. Why? Sarvatmaham avastitaha. I am the presence that is in every being. So Bhagavan is sharing this with Rishi Uddhava. That is your translation, sharing this succinctly. I've told all of you many, many, many times the trajectory of where puja should start and where puja should finish. Puja should start where you feel divinity in a murti. What's the trajectory after that? Where you feel divinity in your madhyama. From a murti to your own center. Atma means center. And then finally, manava, to feel that divinity in all humans, animals, plants, stones. Some more highlights here. Bhagavan shares with Rishi Uddhava more details on how to practice Kriya Yoga. He says you are not just to worship me, that is Bhagavan Krishna, but all around me. You are to worship my discus, the Sudarshana Chakra. You are to worship my vehicle, that is Garuda. And you're not just to worship with some of the materials I've listed. You have to worship with all the materials you have access to. So all surrounding me with all materials. Bhagavan adds these details. And he goes to the extent of, near the completion of a puja, with your eyes closed, you should see that the Naivedya you just offered, that Bhagavan has eaten this. Now, I think most of us, when we offer Naivedya, what are we thinking about? When can I eat this? We never see Bhagavan eating it. It's when can I eat this? And that's why you're supposed to see this in your mind, that Bhagavan has eaten this. And so what do you do after that? You offer Bhagavan water to wash his mouth. Then you offer a betel leaf, that's like gum, like a mouth freshener after that. These details are indicating how we are to surrender. That every thought of ours should be surrendered to Bhagavan. And then whatever remains, they're called remnants, that is for you. That is for you. But it has to be completely offered to Bhagavan, and then whatever is left is offered to you. Here are my final thoughts. When we engage in a puja to Agnav, into the fire, we say swaha. Yes, we've all seen that, we've all practiced that. Swaha means to you, and then we follow it up with the statement, idam namama. This is dedicated to you, this is not mine. Which is why earlier in Bhagavata, Rishi Shukra tells Raja Bali that the three things that we can offer to the world are resources, time, and effort, that you should offer 20% of your resources to Dharma. Now, time has passed since then. We have gone from being suhrid to being kanjus. So now 20% has been diluted to 10%. To 10%. Now time has passed on even more. We've become less suhrid, more kanjus. Now when I ask people, or people ask me how much should I give, I share 10% of your age. However old you are, 10% of your gross income should go based on your age. So if you're 40 years old, 4% of your gross income should be surrendered. Surrendered to Dharma. Okay? from 20% to 10% to 4%. What's going to happen? Next is you ask Bhagwan for money. Don't give any. You ask for resources from him. He has so much money, you ask for it back. We're only in the first quarter of Kali Yuga. There's still so much Kali to happen. This may happen. If I can summarize this chapter, because we have to keep moving. Bhagavan Krishna is sharing that your relationship with Bhagavan can't just be online, it has to be offline too. You can't just have a relationship with Bhagavan in your puja room, in your mandir. This has to come offline. I feel in my travels and experiences in different communities, in different chapters, we've forgotten this. We have come to feel that the only place where one is to feel Bhagavan is in your room, in your mandir. I've seen that the lack of passion has led to a lack of understanding of Sanatana Dharma, which is why so many schools now are barring casteism. Have you been reading about this? School boards, universities, they're outlining casteism, and they're saying, what is the source of casteism? Hinduism. I just explained there is no Hinduism, it's Sanatana Dharma. When we are not passionate about understanding this, then all of this misinterpretation and misimplementation happens. I've seen this with so many cultural and religious organizations in the name of Hinduism have nurtured so much of politics. I've seen entire boards in cultural and religious organizations changing. I've seen so many lawsuits amongst groups. And it's because a few people have misinterpreted this, and now this is being implemented, and all of us have to suffer. I'm going to read to you a section of the first discourse that Pujya Swami Chinmayananda ever shared. This discourse is called, Let Us Be Hindus. Please close your eyes. I'm going to read one portion of this. My proposal is that the wise thing would be for us to try and bring about a renaissance of Hinduism so that under its greatness proved through many centuries, we may come to grow into the very heights of culture and civilization that was ours in the historical past. No doubt, in India, Hinduism has come to mean nothing more than a bundle of sacred superstitions or a certain way of dressing, cooking, eating, talking, and so on. Our gods have fallen to the mortal level of administration officers at whose altars the faithful Hindu might pray in order to get special permits of the things he desires. That is, if he pays the required fee to the priest. This degradation is not the product of any accidental and sudden historical upheaval. For the past 200 years, Hinduism has remained an unwanted orphan without any patronage of the state and little encouragement of the rich. Once upon a time, the learned philosophers were rightly the advisors of the state. But then the quality of the advisor class, the Brahmanas, and the ruler class, the Kshatriyas, deteriorated. By slowly putrefying themselves in the leprous warmth of luxury and power, they have taken us to this regrettable stage in which we find ourselves now. The general cry of the educated class is really against this unreligion. However, it is only the thoughtless, uninformed leaders who call this Hinduism. Open your eyes. In this chapter, Bhagavan is sharing how our relationship with him, our offering to him, is based on faith. It is all inclusive. It is some Brahmanas and some Kshatriyas who misinterpreted what Bhagavan has shared, misimplemented this. And that's why we're in the position we're in right now. And so what we are doing together is God's work. To interpret his teachings, to implement his teachings in a faithful, inclusive way. Please think lots about this. Oh.